identified pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code and order them to appear before the Hamilton County Board of Elections on the date selected by the board members. These poll workers should all be brought down on a date determined by this board and then given further instructions as determined by this board about when and how they are to testify. Board staff, with the advice of the prosecuting attorney and the Secretary of State, should determine an orderly method of questioning poll workers for approval by this board. Board staff should coordinate a regular schedule of board meetings where examination of poll workers should be undertaken. This board immediately should notify the Ohio Supreme Court that we are under a federal court order to investigate poll worker error, and that investigation must include contact and questioning pursuant to the order with each poll worker, thereby leaving the potential for a vacancy in the Hamilton County Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Division on January the 1st. I also believe this board should request an opinion of the prosecuting attorney about what standard of proof this board should use in evaluating the evidence of poll worker error and to overcome the presumption in state law against poll worker error. I also would ask that we undertake simultaneously with this effort a review of poll books for each of the precincts within the affected polling locations and the envelopes for each of the 849 provisional ballots for indications that poll workers directed the voters to the wrong precinct. This was essentially what we had proposed to be undertaken by the board in our proposal of Thursday, December the 9th. We've offered today, or I offered today, a motion that will do exactly what I believe needs to be done given the court's order and frankly what this community demands, and that is a public hearing presenting poll workers in this room so we can evaluate whether or not they committed poll worker error. That's my motion. Do I have a second? Second. Discussion.
I'm going to vote for this motion, though I think it's ridiculous. But if we continue to get 2-2 ties, nothing is going to happen. The suggestion that we subpoena, how many people is this going to be? 2,000 plus people? I'm sure the sheriff's going to be delighted with the suggestion that we subpoena all of those people in.
The court order made it clear that we should question as well as the Secretary of State.
Mr. Chairman, I've never tried to interrupt you.
I didn't know it was interrupted.
Call the question. Let's just get the vote done on this.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of, actually, I'll make sure my motion though is in writing. I'd like for it to be approved as written. I'd like,
Let me be clear. What I'm here to vote for is that portion of your letter which says, therefore I move that and concludes that.
We can't hear you.
What I am prepared to vote yes on is that portion of the letter that begins, therefore I move that, and contains 8 paragraphs. Is that the motion?
actually, there was a printing error. It should contain 9 paragraphs. The first paragraph just didn't get numbered. And it starts with the Hamilton County Board of Elections staff identified. So that it was just a translation error of the Google document. So it should be 9 paragraphs. The first one just isn't numbered.
That's fine.
So you're clear. Anyway, I've read into the record what my motion should be. Any further discussion, Mr. Gerhart?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Anything from staff? I know it's a significant motion, but it's made in good faith today to try to assure a complete and thorough investigation of poll worker error. Anything, Mr. Bissell?
We've already begun to act on the motion, or the work that you approved to have us do on last Friday, or on Friday, or Thursday this week.
Ms. Buchanan?
Just, I would like to make sure that it's in the record that everything that this board has asked of the staff, we have complied with in a bipartisan fashion. We will continue to do so.
I have to tell you, I disagree with that.
Is there something else that, well, let's vote on the motion first.
Mr. Chair, just as a point of clarification, Chair. Mr. Burke has already asked this, but I would ask it in a slightly different form. Your motion begins with, therefore I move that, and basically includes the 9 paragraphs, one of which is unnumbered. Your written statement goes on, however, to discuss your reasons for opposing a questionnaire to poll workers. I just want to be clear that if I vote yes on the motion as made, I am not going to concur saying about contacting the poll workers through questionnaire.
That's fair. My motion should be limited to that which I've placed on the record is my motion.
To be fair, I intend to submit a motion after this one is dealt with that would send a questionnaire to all poll workers. I'm going to follow that with a motion to send a questionnaire to all voters. I suspect I know what will happen to both of my motions, but in the meantime, let's vote on you.
Very good. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Parker? Sure.
Okay, all in favor of my motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right.
I would like to move at this point that a questionnaire be sent to all of the inside poll workers. I've prepared that, I've taken the questionnaire essentially from what staff had prepared and modified it only slightly. Changes to the staff language was highlighted. I'd ask that the questionnaire be sent out immediately to the voters, to the poll workers. And that they be asked to respond as your draft letter had indicated within 2 days by either mail, email, or fax.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion. I'll tell you that I oppose a questionnaire, and I put my reasons in writing, so that way there's no there's no confusion as to what our position is, and I think it's important, since we're in a public meeting, to cover what I've said. I've enunciated 10 reasons as to why I will oppose a motion to send out a questionnaire. I'll go through them as quickly as I can and be as brief as I can, but they are outlined in my written motion today and available for anyone who wants to review them. We have information in the record that the attorney representing one of the two candidates in this very close juvenile court race has had contact with some poll workers. I'm concerned that that contact may have influenced the poll workers' testimony. I think it is important that this board have an opportunity to talk with those poll workers in an open forum, on the record, in front of the public, so that we can see what they heard, what they know, what influence, or, and again, I'm not alleging any misconduct. I just know from experience, as do others, that when a witness sometimes gets talked to, sometimes their recollection can change. I'm concerned. There's been extensive media coverage of these proceedings. It is possible that some erroneous information about poll worker responsibilities made its way into the media. The public is taking great notice of our actions here, and that's evidenced by a long public meeting 2 days ago. The integrity of this process has been regularly questioned. We should do this in an open forum so everyone can hear what these poll workers have to say. It is, again, if there's a questionnaire that's submitted, there's a chain of custody problem in my mind. That means that we can never ascertain whether the person who filled in this questionnaire is actually the person who sent it back. There are notations and other information contained within this board's records that may help a poll worker's recollection of the facts in this case, and further question by board members might be appropriate. I remain concerned that 2 members of this board have, in my mind, at least in my opinion, presumed poll worker error, something that Ohio law and the Secretary's directives prohibit. I think a further questioning of poll workers is appropriate, given that there appears to be some presumption already made by members of this body. The board is also under a federal court order, of course, to find potential violation of the Equal Protection Clause. That's been the action that's been filed. We should treat all the ballots in this case equally. If we send questionnaires to some and we talk to others, again, I'm just concerned that we will treat some ballots differently than others if we talk to some poll workers and we don't talk to them all. There is no precedent that I'm aware of where this board has done anything by questionnaire on a matter of this significant public importance. This is a procedure that was never undertaken by this board or any other board in Ohio, and I know that a questionnaire in this case could potentially be used in the future. It is my position that if we are to do a questionnaire, then the Secretary ought to break our tie and approve her own questionnaire. That then comes from our chief elections official, but I'm not prepared as a member of this board to write a questionnaire to approve the language of a particular questionnaire. That's one of 10 reasons why. And again, this could affect the outcome of an important public office in our community, and a simple questionnaire, in my mind, is not sufficient for this board to overcome a presumption that says poll workers did what they were supposed to do. So for that reason, I would be opposing the motion.